Good evening and welcome to the Blue Table Talk. Today is a Thursday and it's the 1st of December 2022, and it's a very beautiful Thursday because we are commemorating World AIDS Day in the Kingdom of Eswatini and everywhere else in the world, I guarantee you. Now, we are on the Blue Table today talking basically about everything World AIDS Day and everything you need to know in terms of the strides that we have done as a country to get to where we are today. We have been singing from 2015 about ending AIDS in 2022, but it is 2022. Do we have any results to show for that? What are some of the strategies that have benefited us and actually worked for us as a country to get to where we are today? My name is Sipesihle Nkwanyana, and I am the head of communications at Nurture, and I am your host for this evening session of the Blue Table Talk, and we are coming to you live from the Standard Bank headquarters in the capital city, Mbabane. So I have guests with me here today. I am not alone, of course. I have industry players, industry gurus, people who are going to tell you the ins and outs of what we have done as a response in the Kingdom of Eswatini. I have with me the private sector. I have with me, an organization that deals with men issues, and because we've heard a lot about how men are lagging behind in the HIV response and in their access to HIV services. We're also going to be speaking about issues of gender-based violence and how this actually affects, women in their uptake of HIV services if men are not capacitated enough. We also have Nurture on the other end. We are talking HIV prevention, but I will give my guests time to just introduce themselves and tell us where they are from in their different sectors and the work that they do on a daily basis before we dive in, before we delve into the issues of the day. I will start on my immediate left, where we have Mage Tobile.
AIDS in the workplace, and in particular on this international commemoration of World AIDS Day. There's issues of wellness in the workplace. We are likely to reap a lot of rewards and see improving performance, and also see employees that feel they're being cared for, and thus they want to give a little bit more of themselves to the company.
Mr. Bongi Nkosi Ndlangamandla from Men Engage. Tell us more about your organization.
Thank you so much, Spesihle. Good evening, our viewers. My name is Bongi Nkosi Ndlangamandla. I'm the National Coordinator for Men Engage Eswatini Network, whereby we are a network that is working with men and boys to achieve gender equality. With gender equality, we believe that we will be able to counter a number of social issues, HIV and AIDS included, as part of the achievement that we hope to gain. On a daily basis, we engage men across all sectors of the country, where we engage them through dialogues, through various activities, your dialogues, your sensitizations, and also ensuring that we have services reaching out to where men are, and ensuring that we have a conversation with men on the importance of service uptake, and ensuring that we take care of our health as well as the health of our loved ones within the family.
Importance of service uptake, because we know that men are still the laggards when we speak about access to HIV services. We will come back to that to speak about their attitudes as you speak to them in the different setups where you find them. Mr. Mavuso, sir, my colleague, I will give you the opportunity to introduce yourself and tell us a bit more about a little bit about HIV prevention in the space that you work in.
Thank you very much, Spe, and good evening to our viewers. I'm Mazuma Vuso. I'm the National HIV Prevention Manager with Nurture. So Nurture is, of course, mandated with coordinating the HIV response in the country. And today we're very excited, as the host has mentioned, that it's World AIDS Day, the 1st of December. So basically we are responsible for coordinating the multi-sectoral approach of the HIV prevention. And precisely when we speak to HIV prevention, our viewers will understand that we have come a long way, starting from issues of abstinence, being faithful, and condomizing, moving on to introducing quite a number of other prevention modalities, and making sure that there is a wide range of the menu which our clients can actually pick from. So I'm excited to be here, and thank you very much.
Amazing. I like what you're saying about the way in which HIV prevention has actually evolved over the years, from ABC, condom, VMMC, and everything else. But I'll come back to you, Mr. Mavuso, and we will speak about the issue of incidents that the minister of Health mentioned yesterday during the summary report, SHIMS 3, and you will tell us about what has happened there, because there's a lot of technical jargons also on HIV. We're speaking incidents, prevalence, mortality, and all of those words. So, but maybe let me come to you, Magetobile. You work in the private sector. You work, you engage on a daily basis, with staff in their different settings. What is it like working with different audiences in the private sector, getting people at work where they are? I know that men were actually saying that, we would appreciate if services came to us. Is that appreciated, and what is the response?
Yes, it is greatly appreciated, Spe. What we're seeing now is that people actually wait for the time when you would be bringing a service to them in the workplace. It doesn't matter you're on medical aid, because there's this personal touch that we get to connect with them, because we go beyond just giving a session now and then disappearing. They know we're available throughout the year and any time for them. So if I can make an example, just this year alone, because as we try to make sure we reach most workplaces, we are also gathering partnerships, because like I said when I started, I said we also have a mandate from the National Strategic Framework to coordinate the private sector. So whether you are a member of EBH or not, we need to also make sure you have a service that you give to your people, particularly when it comes to issues of HIV and AIDS. So just this year alone, we're able to reach, in less than 10 months, we're able to reach more than 4,000 people for HIV testing alone. And from that, we picked 151 new cases. And that is not a nice one. Mavuso will get to explain that a little bit more. But every new case is a worry in the workplace. Remember, these are the people that are supposed to be productive. And these are the people that should be taking helping us build the economy. So, when we have a diagnosis of a life-threatening disease or a long-term disease, there are always many challenges we are faced with. So having workplace programs helps us to deal with those issues without people taking time off from work. And it has really saved a lot of time for employees. And what we also embarked on this year was to say, now you know your HIV status, but we need to be able to bring you even other services, cervical cancer screening, even the initiating on art. If you are found at work, let it be done there, so that you don't need to take time off and maybe spend your leave days now trying to avoid to say you are sick, because that's what happens. When you discover, sometimes employees would avoid to say I'm going to hospital. They would rather take that day off. But when you bring the services, and I think over the years, also employees have learned that this is a confidential service. Initially, people were scared that why are employers interested in testing us on HIV or bringing in these services? Is it their plan of retrenching us? But over the years, we are even having people who are comfortable to come up and say, I live with HIV, and companies have been supporting those people. So we do encourage all companies actually to consider, just like Standard Bank has, to have a fully fledged program for your employees, irrespective of other benefits we have. Workplace wellness and HIV programs are no longer a nice to have, but they're a must for us.
They are no longer nice to have, but they're a must for all of us. You said that you tested 4,000.
Oh, yes.
4,000 positive.
No. The people that you remember now, when we test, we look for high risk. We don't just test anybody. But we picked 151 from there. But what I liked anyway, Mavuso will expand on that, is that the statistics that we get in the workplace, they relate to what is happening nationally, which means we have really contributed to, as business, in the national statistics and in the reduction that is going to be talking about later on.
Okay. Of Of course, I did want to get the finer details there so that I go to Mr. Mavuso, you know, with numbers in terms of, you know, the minister yesterday mentioning a percentage, percentages of 1 point, and now we are down to 0 point when we speak about incidents. Maybe just share some of those numbers with us, Mazwi, to actually bring us into the picture of, you know, what do we mean when we say incidence has gone down for the kingdom when workplace programs are still bringing up, you know, those new HIV infections and issues?
Well, very exciting actually yesterday. It was an exciting day to hear those numbers being released by the Honorable Minister. Actually, you will recall as per where we are coming from in terms of incidents. This is the third population-based HIV-based impact assessment. SHIMS 1 was done in 2011, SHIMS 2 in 2016, and this is SHIMS 3 2022. And it's very exciting to see that the country has actually put a maximum effort, and we can see the great strides that the country has taken over the number of years. If I can compare quickly, talking about incidents, you'll recall that in 2016 we were in 1.13, and that's a proportion of new HIV infections in a particular population. It actually predicts even the risk occurrence of disease. So now going down to 0.62, that's a drop, and we are clapping hands. However, this is just in the general population. When you dig deeper, you'll understand that we then have some pockets of some subpopulations where we need to still put more focus, as our World AIDS Day theme is saying, that equalize, Eswatini ending AIDS for all. It simply means that there are still some subpopulations who are lagging behind in the response.
I will come back to you, Mr. Mavuso, with that, because I want to come to Mr. Ndlangamandla. There are pockets, you know, of gaps which are still, you know, visible in the response, and one of those is actually men. And you, from Men Engage, Mr. Ndlangamandla, would you perhaps tell us about how, you know, how men receive you, you know, when you speak about HIV issues? Because we've heard, you know, from the dialogues that we've been having, that there's laxity, you know, there's non-conformity when it comes to men in HIV services. What is men's role in ending AIDS?
Thank you so much, my sister. That it presents a huge challenge on the possibilities of new HIV infections, and also taking into consideration that in the country, most perpetrators on reported cases, you find that those are men. And the fact that there is an issue of power imbalance when we talk about issues of violence, it then presents a huge possibility of HIV infection, because that power imbalance reduces the importance of communication within consent on how what type of sex are we going to engage in, even if you would love to use protection to engage with your partner, whereas there is a possibility of fear. It has come clear that there are lesser chances of you initiating the use of protection. And also what come out when we do our engagement with men, it comes out clear that the issues of socialization, the social values and beliefs and norms around men, it tends to be the hindrance in men accessing services. Like we have men lacking the health-seeking behavior. In the kingdom, we still have a huge number of men who still believe that they know their HIV status based on the HIV status of their partners, because their partners, you find that women most of the time in the country, with the good work that is being done by the Minister of Health and other key players, when every woman that is going to for ANC, they then test for HIV and many other services. And the fact that, you know, from our socialization, it allows women to show up if ever they are not okay. Yeah. But with men, we feel like it then reduces our manhood. Yeah. That also then presents us with the vulnerability in terms of accessing services. And also, it then makes men feel like if I go out to the clinic and say I'm not feeling well, I'll be. It's a sign of weakness.
Please just hold it there. Invoza ayikali invoza iyaqinisela Makethobile. Mr. Ndlangamandla is mentioning here that there are cultural beliefs and cultural practices and norms in our culture. What is the response like, especially in private sector, when you bring these services? I've heard also that men are also saying if they go to health facilities and they are attended to by female, healthcare workers, they are not as comfortable. What is the situation like? What is it that you have actually observed with men's access?
In fact, we have been forced to make sure the service providers too are of mixed gender. Because it's true, even women, some would like to talk to a woman, but some would prefer a man. So we provide that so that they can go where they feel comfortable. But I think the truth of the matter is that we still have them. I think they're at the lead of fearing confidentiality. I'll give an example. When we were still mostly promoting Know Your Status, we would go to a place and say, we want to start with EXCO. They will lead the testing, and so that employees can then say, if my boss is testing, then it's okay. Yeah, it's confidential. And, one did confess to me to say, for me to agree to take that first test, I needed to go to Nelspruit to test first. Where they don't know me. Because my fear is that immediately, this person who tests me, I'm the head of the company. Yeah. Am I safe with that information? Oh, yeah. So those are the challenges that have been there. And they're still there with some people who still feel, but I think we are growing with the advent of treatment and with and there's more. Yeah. So I think that has helped us a bit to say, no, they see so many people, why would they? But also the other thing that we've seen, even more worse if you're a man, you carry the economy. Yeah. So if you have not adopted the attitude of saying, I protect myself, I protect others, the other person is not likely to demand protection because of the power that you already possess.
I like that one. Makethobile also spoke, Mr. Mavuso, about the issue, of knowledge of HIV. We all know about HIV, but are we actually exhibiting that kind of knowledge in the way in which we carry ourselves, especially the youth? You did mention that there are pockets, and gaps that we still need to fill. What are some of these subpopulations that are lagging behind?
Well, let me start by mentioning that, Eswatini is being affected by a generalized epidemic that is affecting almost everyone in general. However, women carry the highest HIV burden when you compare them to men.
Is it because there are more women than men in the world in general? Why is that so?
Partly because generally you have more women accessing services compared to men, and that will make their numbers increase. Now, going down to what the Honorable Minister of Health released yesterday, you realize that when you look at women, even in the current SHIMS result, they are actually on the most burdened side, both for HIV incidence and also for HIV prevalence. And this is most profound when you look at adolescent girls and young women, particularly 15 years to 24. But now coming back to the comments that are coming here, I'm very excited on the issue of men. When we reach out to men, we know by extension we are reaching out to the adolescent girls and young women who are particularly affected by HIV, because we are in a setting where the spread of HIV is mostly lined along the socio-economic inequalities. And I'm excited about today's World AIDS Day and the theme actually that we are mobilizing ourselves behind, because it specifically identifies that we still are suffering inequalities both in terms of access to services and also in terms of social and economic inequalities, where now you will need both parties to come on the table and then you try to understand how best we need to package services, particularly for men, for AGYW, and for other populations who we have called hard-to-reach populations. And there's still a question to say, how do we say they're hard to reach if they stay within our communities? When we're able to reach some of who we want to reach within where they reach? Is it that they are hard to reach, or our programs are not well designed to come to their vicinity? So this is a question that moving forward, really, the HIV response should try to respond to, given the results that were portrayed recently by the Honorable Minister.
Honorable Minister. Ngifuna ukuthi kuwe Mr Ndlangamandla, kunalenzaba yokuthi bobabe sebakhudwe kakhulu, bobabe sekungathi ngibo vele inkinga. Uyathi makethobile ukuthi inkomo nawuthi bophele leshaya kakhulu bese yagwilikisa. Nasitawupheka ukuthi bobabe. What is the response maybe mhlawumbe ukuthi bobabe bathini Mr Ndlangamandla nani bakhulumisa ngalenzaba yokuthi ungathi
things. And remember, it's not just that men have decided to go to the nearest shop and buy these qualities. They are as a result of an education that they have inherited from many years ago. So now when you come from these men that have been taught that the right way of being a man is this, then it brings more confusion than solution. Because, you know, I'll make an example of this said reality that I came across with a number of men. There's still a lot of men in Eswatini that believe I cannot count one as my former sexual partner if we've never engaged in a sexual activity with. So if I count my exes, I might have had a sexual encounter with you. If with you, I must have had unprotected sex. It means then which are those that are most vulnerable economically, and they are depending on these men who are using their money to reach out on them. And with this belief, then it's high. So it means that when we engage with men, we need to unpack such issues. And also, the most easiest way that ever since I started working with men, I find it possible is through highlighting such issues and having a dialogue and engaging with men. Don't come to men with a crucifying attitude. You must come in terms of will be willing to engage with them and listen to them and engage them further on what they are bringing up.
I know that men have been labeled perpetrators of sexual violence for a very long time, Magetobile. What is the private sector doing in terms of reaching men now? I know that you did mention that they are actually coming to the fore, they are starting to get comfortable, but what are some of the programs that you want to come up with in order to reach out to them more and help, you know, lessen the burden of HIV?
Okay, I think we are in the next beginning of next them, like Bonkos was saying, we need to understand where they come from and what they've been taught, so that to assist them to change from what we see as a bad behavior. You know, I'll give an example. Some of these men, they would say, but these young girls are throwing us themselves at us. And I'm like, it's okay, but when your child throws yourself to you, do you then abuse that child? I mean, because you are an adult, you must take a responsible role of saying, no mfanami. I've heard some men saying, ngamtshela kahle lo mfanami, mina ngangababa wakho, khohlwa ngami. Because that is also the truth that we need to also confront as parents. One of the things that we're trying to also slowly engage on is the whole issue of parenting. The affluent society is missing it out on parenting. And as also us as women, as we get liberated, we have our monies, we think we can have children and raise them alone. I'm not coming from a Christian background, but I believe there was a purpose while there's a man and a woman. If you need to raise a child responsibly, we must all be there. Even if we are separated, make sure there's a conducive environment to make sure that the boy child learns from the father and the girl child learns from the... But in this case, we think as women, we can simply wake up because we're mothers and raise them.
Eish.
And
The best way we know how.
the best
I
way we
mean,
know
honestly.
how, you know, yet we all need help. So I think the programs, what also we're trying to improve in the private sector is also access to counseling.
Yeah.
Because the mental issues are real. The men also are abused. Let us not run away from that fact. We have men that are suicidal because of the many types of abuses they are enduring in their homesteads. And what they do, because they cannot control Magetobile, who's the wife here, they will control this young girl out there.
Yeah, and Maitobile is a CEO of an organization.
Mangifika lapha ekhaya nje uthi ezokhona lo makekhala sakhe sicathulo. But lengaphandle kulomfana so exerta le control.
Yeah.
We even say ungakubona ngisho la 17 uyambona nababe labamphethe ekhaya namake lo abused ekhaya. Mase bafika la kithi thina si reporta kubo hayi abasathenze because le khaya kahle hle we don't care about your status. Ungimaka ungibabe. But ke thina ngalokuthi la nangifika la bayangigijimela ngiva ngathi ngase ngibagcinzeletela kakhulu. So we're bringing all those discussions into the table.
Yeah. I like that. Ukuthi uyambona babe donswa ngeslave. Ngifuna kubuya kuwe. Ngifuna kubuya kuwe Ndlangamandla ngingakayi kuMavuso kwekuthi uyambona babe donswa ngenjebe. Engabe bobabe bathini kakhulu ngoba uyasho Maithobile ethi bathi hey labamphana bayasihlonipha baba abasahloniphi. Bobabe yini mhlawumbe labangayenda kangcono ikakhulu corrective behavior in the home than the violence that then comes with correcting behaviors.
Okay. Thank you so much, Sisi Spe. I think lokumcoka kakhulu kungukuthi men needs to understand by not being a perpetrator, you are not doing it for your family members or people around you.
Yeah.
You are doing it for yourself. I normally say when engaging with men, everyone under the sun has got an expiry date. And as you have got an expiry date, it is so much important as a man to understand that you do not brand yourself and you make your definition within your family as the money that you bring to the table.
Okay.
Because someday you will not have that money to bring on the table.
That's the money that gives you power.
That gives you power. So mawesenayo le mali, then ukhanza ngako ukuthi in most of the time kangwane sesinale chance ukuthi awuthanga penshela baba angawuhlanisi 5 years angakafi. Simply because uya kubantu labangamati. The impilo yakhe bekayakhe with the colleagues at work. So now when we talk with men to resolve conflict without using violence, we are saying you are also paving your space within the family. And also to deal with this issue, we also need to redefine the roles that we give to each other within the family. Because we are saying men needs to continue providing, whereas there is no man who's getting extra money for being a man.
Yeah.
Everyone is being paid for the job.
Bobabe, are they willing to share? Bobabe, one, but very secretive in nature. Logo guti abafuni kwatelwa tinvo tabo guti yonke info. Wona sofuna kwati konke kwami guti bengiye phi ngihola malini ini wona mfatu utangibulala. Bathi na bayayivuma inindzaba.
I think
ukuthi ubeke konke etafuleni.
Kuliciniso lokho ukuthi mase sayicala le conversation. Vele kuye kube likhuni. Kodwa sisakhulumisa even ngalendlela ukuthi yini ema benefits. Mase ngiyibeke la itafuleni. Ngoba endzabeni nawo konke isikhathi esiningi siye sithi kuye kube natural, ku natural ukuthi bobabe bafihle. Kanti siye sithi masikhuluma sithi akusiko natural. Ngile socialization yethu. And sisakhuliseka nje lapha even ngiyathi uma ngabe kunezinto esingadinaki as parents sisathenga lama toys labantu abethu lesibaniketa wona already we are defining yena ezimpilo yakhe as a human being because lo mfana sesimnikete le moto madlala ngale moto ku-RTV advertise iLamborghini kubekwe sisi lo muhle logcoka ibikini buy one get one free.
Imagine.
So now we are saying as a boy child ngisadlala ngale moto yami ngikhula engcomveni ngiyathi ukuthi mase nginemoto ngizathola bosisi mahala bayatiwela abantwana. Sesichubeka lapho futhi le moto nemdoli ung10 rand 20 rand uyawuthola umdoli endodana. Imoto toys lemfana licala ku 20 rand lethu 8 rand ungawuthola lo mdoli lomncane. Ngephuka lisondo lemoto sothi awuthenga lenye kana umdoli ungaphuma umkhono uyabuyisela. So then now in terms of the value imoto toys le moto lemfana udlala nge toys la 500 rand. Info matana masong 500 rand umdoli akusesiwe mntwana sengwamake makhumbule baba godle wona ngithe ipe wakhe empetheni. So now that's differentiate the value between the two people.
Yeah.
Even in terms of providing, when we define now ukuthi lo kumele alethe singwa lesitawusidla lakha anyhow kumele kube ngibabi kodwa masisamake kumele sibe conscious kwekuthi singasihebhula sinoma kanjani sebantwana sikuseni. Then it presents a burden.
Yeah.
Yekwekuthi bobabe always bathatha ikhanza ba under pressure. I need to provide. I now don't have time to think of other things and creating my relationship with the children.
Yeah.
And also, lokubese sekusiniketa lenkinga ke kungukuthi bobabe babe absent etimpilweni tebantfwana babo bona bati define aba present ngekuthi bayithengile bayi-uniform basibhadele school fees, so of which that is not what the child wants.
Asesibeka umuno lapho ngiyayifuna leyo sitawubuya kuyo kwekuthi present father, present you know parent vele uba present kanjani ngoba boba bevele banako ukuthi awu ngiyakondla mose kufane mfati makhala mayethobile ukuthi lo mfati unani lo mfati ufunani ufuna ngiphehlala la celeni kwakhe utangendani ngoba ngimnikile imali ngithengile kudla ekhaya ulambile yini. Mr. Mavuso ufuna kwesikhuluma ngendaba ye social protection masikhuluma ngendaba ye HIV prevention uyithinzile la makethobile kwekuthi indaba ye social protection kwekuthi amaphambatana dilahla kubobabe ngoba mhlawumbe afuna lokuthide umntwana siyatutha keneli make noma ngabe ungamentelani kodwa nasekhwalo ngiyelo lokumanyako uyakufuna indaba ye social protection enasikhuluma nge-HIV prevention imcoka kanganani?
Yeah, look, Spe, for the longest time, our HIV prevention programs have looked at mitigating risk and have neglected vulnerability.
Yeah.
You see, when you bring the issues of PrEP, the issues of VMMC, the issues of condom, you are dealing with a person who is at risk of infection. But if I'm an adolescent girl and a young woman, I remain vulnerable in as much as you've provided me with your PrEP. So now the question is, how do you deal with my vulnerability? And that is where this country is at right now, and exactly the issues that they are discussing to say, now we need the issues of social protection to deal with the vulnerability, because I am a student at varsity, for example. It has taken 6 months, I've not received my allowance. There is nothing coming from home. I've got nothing to eat.
Oh, I have received it, but you
understand,
you know?
Those are the dynamics where we are coming from. So now the question is, what sustains this young person at varsity? I come as Mr. Mavuso, I park my nice slick vehicle at the gate of the university there, looking at them coming inside and outside of the gate. I choose who I call. And because of the state of the vulnerability where they are kind of coerced to then come to me whenever I call them. And that is where the epidemic is. And now when we talk about this country reaching and sustaining epidemic control, we are simply saying, let's close the tap of new HIV infections and let's end AIDS as a public health threat. And at that stage, we'll have achieved epidemic control. That's where we're struggling now. In other words, we are simply saying, let our programs also look at the issue of vulnerability. That is why we will classify them as having key and vulnerable populations. So it actually gives us the idea to say, at some stage, let's just look at the how we empower our young people, particularly because they are the most affected. Let's empower them economically and provide some social capital so that they can sustain themselves wherever they are, instead of all the time wanting to depend on men who they then tend to dictate the terms anyhow.
Maybe let's speak also, Mr. Mavuso, let us speak about the issue of what kind, you know, because sometimes they say don't give the person the fish, but teach them how to fish. I know that we've had studies like Sitakela Ligusasa, you know, cash incentives for young girls, dignity packs and all of that. But is that enough? Are we not just scratching the surface? Are we, how deep should we go in terms of?
We're scraping the surface,
Yeah.
because what you need to do, you have to go to design a program that is going to be sustained, even when the supply is not there.
Yeah.
That is what we need. So now, because you'll understand our general problem in the country, most of our HIV prevention programs are donor supported, and you'll realize that for these efforts to be sustained, you'll need also domestic funding to support what I may call social capital issues, to ensure that you have a backyard garden, you have a savings and a cooperative scenario. You have got these existing scenarios that will allow the young person to self-generate income, to be self-dependent and self-sustainable, right? So now I think most of the programs that we have, they just seek to do a one-time intervention, and then when
Because they're also timed. It's a
yeah, they are
12-month
timed. You see,
project. It's a 3-year project.
that's the problem. And now when the project ends, then you are back to square one.
Aisha.
You see, so
Yeah.
I think now the fundamental question should be, how should we design it? Because we know now who are the most affected. We just need to tailor our programs to target those people. Let me give you numbers, Spe. I told you that adolescent girls and young women 15 to 24 years are the most affected, and the prevalence there is so high, is about 17%. And when you look at the corresponding age band for men, you're talking about those at least 30 years and above. So now when you look at these statistics, it actually tells you who is having sex with who, because you ordinarily don't see the same numbers happening with men
with the younger
or younger
boys,
boys of the same age band with the woman. So it tells you that these are power relations, issues of economic empowerment. So we have these inequalities that we need to sort, and then look at the issues of how we protect these young people on an ongoing basis.
Maitobile, would you like to add perhaps on the issue of, social protection and, the risk that our adolescents, girls especially, and young women are faced with? What more can we do as a country? What is private sector, stand on the issue of adolescent girls and young women and their vulnerability?
I think I would start by saying the reason now why we want also to go further to men is to make sure that, because some of these problems are coming from family men who are not even taking care of their families.
Yeah.
So they would rather support a child, another person's child, the wrong way at university, same problem.
Yeah.
So I think ngiko sithi asibiyele emva, but lokunye vele kumcoka lokuthi sibiyele sifundzise ngalama parenting skills. Kude esikole semfana ukuthi ufundiswa, but sikhule sathi ukuthi bekuneliguma kunelisanga. And that's when you were taught responsibility.
Yeah.
And that's when ngoba nje nyalo lengibuka lesifuna sambe sikufundzise nje kuloku ukuthi really indzaba yokulala asibiyeleni ku asekumiwe lokulala. If under 18 ulala uthembeni.
Hey, yeah.
Are you emotionally ready for lokulala? Ngoba nje nako nje yabona nje besicoca nalomunye le World AIDS Day ngithi yatithi ngikade mtaqala nje nangicala kulala. Because because now you have children that you have to take care. Bringing a child to this earth is a lot of responsibility. How much more now umthole kumuntu longamfuni lo naye longakufuni lo mntana ke yabona nyalo we are just continuously building a broken nation. So vele ema efforts at yes sike sayi debate nabe saka strategies ase parliament. Most parliamentarians vele aqhamuka nale issue ukuthi when we have a social grant, it should not look at udzingani siphe.
Yeah.
It should look at siphe nelikhala kubo, because uma lento inela mine alone, I'll still want to try and find more for my family.
Yes,
Because
true.
we belong to a family.
Yeah, of course.
You know. So these are the serious and hard issues. But more than anything, I think ifuna bamfana nyalo ngoba bayatibulala nokutibulala.
Eish, yeah.
Kufuna vele sibatshele ukuthi kude bunanzi bekulala except itinkinga. So kungcono ulale when you are mentally ready, you are financially ready. At least you are ready to deal with the repercussions.
Yeah.
Because the repercussions could be HIV, could be STIs, could be a pregnancy that you are not
Pregnancy,
planned
yeah.
for. So we are abort. Sesiyakubopha nasikubamba umthetho wethu satha sinibophe. You know you're already in a lot of a mess. And the long-term mental effects sidila nawo manje lam 17. Kwende katinkinga na 15. Nyalo lam 17 sesabathe lona wasidla vuda every day. Kwendekani akasabatfola bantwana ngokuthi wathi namncane wamitha angaplani wagcina kokhishwa sisu ngebackstreet. Now married emshadweni bafuna umfana. You know, and it
consulta kubaba.
now ufika ubika ukuthi mphathi umfana nami akaguli ukuthatha kangenza umfana lam 17.
You.
Hayi ukuthi usho mbamba uendwa ngokuthi you know you have something I don't have and they've never dealt with those traumas themselves. So really indzaba yebantfana nyalo while sithi asiba provide ngako konke. But let us also be honest. Singabe sabisi but be honest ukuthi ngubani lokufanele ayolala. Ngoba sibadzala nje you choose secondary abstinence because now ubona silokulala ungathi kutangifake enkingeni.
Yeah.
Akume vele.
Ngoba kusukela ngaqala kulala tinkinga
Tiyanza.
Ngiyalithanda lelo kakhulu Mathobile. Ngidawubuya kuwe Mathobile kukhona indaba lengifuna siyikhulume indaba ye retirement and planning for retirement kwekuthi kuma programs engabe ikhona emsebenzini. Ngifuna kodwa sichubeke nawe Bhutibongo ukuthi indzaba kakhulu loyiqalile yekuthi babe lokhona nababe longekho uthi make Thobile kuba ngcono uma ngabe sho ukuthi intombatane sibonelo sayo kutabanga make lakhaya nemfana sibonelo sayo mhlawumbe kube ngibabe bantwana bakhula ngcono nabababili badala kodwa asesikhuluma ukuthi vele iliciniso kanganani ikakhulu kubo babe kuba khona kwabo nekungabi khona ekhaya ngoba utawuthola ukuthi bakhona bababili badala make Thobile kodwa abekho bantwana bakhuli mhlawumbe ngalendlela esikhathe ukuthi nabane badala bobabili bangcono ngoba siyesisho njalo so expand on that one.
Okay, thank you so much Sis Phesihle. Leyo iliciniso kakhulu. Actually akusiku ukuthi kumbe ngumfana kuphela lozuzako ngeke kuba khona kwababe empilweni yakhe even na girl child. Ngitawubekisa nje umntwana loinfombatana licwaningo likhombisile ukuthi wenta ngcono esikolweni. Le baba wakhe akhona empilweni yakhe. Mvomatana nje iyashayina. Phinze futhi lokwendekako kungukuthi nobe sekhabudlelwane i-definition nobe ama-qualities emuntu la angathandzana naye ngulona ama qualities la ababo wakhe uma ngabe ama-qualities ababo wakhe a-positive asetule emathuba kokuthi utawuba esebudlelwane nebantfu labatamphatha kahle uma ngabe nje sacala phakamisa leave i-boyfriend utawuthi hayi akusulo kolehlobo lengifundisa kawo empilweni yami then aphume eceleni enike nakubafana uma ngabe umfana akhuliswa ngubabe lo ngubabe out le lamangweni kubhudluta yena lapha nalapha kuphinze nalo mfana makakhula akhule nalowo mcondvo lokho kangawe ukuthi sinenkinga namuhla tiko leliphinda ndvunankulu emsebentini walomkhulu libhekene nesayeko ukuthi labe imali yabo yebantfana labangondliwa abatali babo ngoba batala basavumelana ingcenye lenkulu ichamuka la ekutsenini even nama roles la khaya masaniketa labantwana umfana simncamulile ekutsenini akwadi ukuthi kuyawashwa kuyaphekwa uyacala uyefika manje so se-university sewuchashile so lanza singani lapha ngephandle lesitawuwasha lana uyamithisa so uyamcosha ke ngoba lona akakwati ayinomgedla so lanza ayinomgedla lo uyabhoyila lona so lanza lo ukenzaka so bonke ke soqala kusebenta lo muntu sona 4 bantwana 5 webantwana and then ngale ncubo yethu sithi thina mangabe uthethe kahle umfati ithi kumele ngithathe umuntu lo ngenamfana lo mshado loyo vele sovela ufeyilile
Kodwa
nje
wena uda nalaba sihlanu.
sengida nalaba sihlanu so konke lokho ngithi inkinga leti banenzondo nabo badala abantwana labanenzondo uma uthi yena akacale abe ngumtali lo present utawuthi akakufunze phi ngoba kwana naye akamati umtali lo present
Yo.
enike lenye inkinga lekhona nobe ngabe ngathiwa labatali bobabili bahleti la khaya masikhuluma ngekuba ngumtali lo khona ngibani khona ngaletinfo leti material ube khona na even with my emotional well-being ube ngumtali lokhathalelako ungathi ukuthi ungibabe awungathi nokuthi ngifunza grade bani
Yo.
awumati umfana kugcoka size bani
Eish.
wena awumati kwekuthi
Uthandzani.
uthandzani ngoba lenye info le inkinga sikubonile emahlandla lamanyenti kwekuthi ikakhulu emantombazana masalotsholo ukhanza ukuthi tinkomo tiyita nje setivele setinebhaya ngale ngoba akafuni tithathwe ngunangibabe longekho la empilweni yakhe
Yeah.
sibo babe sithi thina hayi makubirthday yakhe ya 5 years sibhize emsebentini kodwa masalotsholwa sifika ngemsombuluko emalobola ngena ngalesihlanu nguletinye timvo
Zitaba present.
lenzaba yekuba present
Sesiyibambe
we
msinya.
need to be present lo mntwana asacala ngobe labenta i-childhood development bayasho ukuthi lo kungemashumi lasiphohlongo kwengcondo yomuntu kuhlangana kakhulu kumaturisa uma ngabe between the age and 0 to 8 years so asicontribute ku 80% wangcondo yakhe sibo babe sibonakala sikade ukuthi umntwana umthanza maphi ama toys makadlala sikhone kuba naye umthatha umntwana wakho bobabe udlale nabo umtam understand ukuthi ujabula makwendekeni akajabula makwendekeni
Utosheshe
yini
ukwati
lemnandi
nekumbona,
ukutakwati
nabangasikazi.
nekumbona ngoba sinenkinga yokuthi esikhathini esiningi nje inkinga lekhona bobabe kumbona nje umntwana wakho lo infomatana ukuthi sowukhulelwe utshelwa kuma kwakhe ngoba umbona
Yeah.
asesithi ke manje sowugagadlelwe sesithathe simbonisana nema STIs kani besingakhona ukuthi simbone ecala atawukhona ukuthola bo PrEP avikeleke ukuthi agcina abe HIV kani manje sesambona late already sekuyinkinga so it is so much important ukuthi sibe involved like empilweni abaningumntali lo involved
Sibe mbatali laba involved. I like that a lot. Mr. Mavuso, uthenza indzaba ya PrEP kakhulu lapha Mr. Nhlangamandla. Ngifuna kwathi Mr. Mavuso ukuthi kusebenta mhlawumbe kwaletindlela tekutivikela. You know, we have so many prevention HIV prevention tools at our disposal. Young people know about HIV, but they are not you know, their knowledge is not equal you know, to how they access these services. What would you say on that?
Yeah. Actually, the understanding is HIV knowledge is high in the general population, but that high level of HIV knowledge has not translated into the desired behaviors. That is a problem now. So now the issue of social behavior change actually says on an ongoing basis, these messages, this information must be reinforced from time to time. So now generally, we have low levels of perceived risk. People don't think they're at risk. Yeah, that is why when you actually try to market some of the prevention modalities, they will think, oh, this is not for me. Why me? We actually have low risk perception levels. So now, the Kingdom of Eswatini have actually put some different modalities in place, particularly when it comes to pre-exposure prophylaxis, to just try and make sure that everyone can access and actually everyone can find what is tailored to his or her needs, because there is this issue we've been saying for the longest time that we want to do, for example, youth-friendly services or men-friendly services. So the issue of services being friendly might mean quite a number of things. I think now, given what the Honourable Minister released yesterday when it comes to SHIMS 3, we need to design responsive programs, not friendly programs. They must be responsive, targeting, tailored into the context of that particular subpopulation. So now we have different types of pre-exposure prophylaxis that are already available for use. We still have the routine oral PrEP that is readily available across all facilities. The Ministry of Health have actually increased even geographic coverage. We also now have event-driven prep, and this is prep that actually is event-driven, as it is saying. You actually take this prep because you understand that you are about to be at risk. So now this was actually introduced to try and mitigate the issues of non-adherence. Because taking PrEP every day, people are asking themselves, it's like I'm taking the ARVs after all.
I want to probably probe you on that one, Mr. Mavuso, because there's been, there's been wind going around about the uptake of PrEP and the accessibility of it thereof. To say, how easily accessible is it? Others were saying, why can't we get it in pharmacies? I mean, if it is very expensive for government, maybe we can afford it. What are some of the issues around easy access, to PrEP? Because there are a lot of, there are a lot of suggestions out there. I can mention there are lots. Yeah.
First of all, I should salute the effort of the government of the Kingdom of Eswatini in trying to make sure that PrEP services are available. To start with, the oral PrEP, I can tell you that it's readily available in almost actually above 95% of all public health hospitals. So that's readily available. And then when it comes to event-driven PrEP, you see the rollout usually happens by a number of increasing the number of sites and facilities where we are covering from time to time. And I understand now that in terms of the event-driven PrEP, we've covered quite a number as well of the public health institutions, the clinics, and of course the mission ones and the hospitals. But now in terms of making them readily available in pharmacies, you'll recall that those that are available in all the public institutions are actually free of charge. So you can just access them anyhow. And by the way, these are very expensive to pay, very, very expensive. So now in Eswatini, we have 70% of the population living below poverty line. So now when you design a program, you look into the context. How many people are going to afford if then it is placed for a procurement? Now, those who can afford, at least they still go even for the ARVs to the private sector institutions where they pay for them. But it's only a few of our population. So when you think and design a program, you think it in the approach of a public health approach. Think for the larger proportion.
Think for the larger population. I like that. As we wrap up our session, we've had beautiful discussions, but maybe I just want to now hear your statements, reaffirming we are in 2022. We've been singing a tune for over, 7 years from when His Majesty gave us the mandate in 2015 to say end AIDS by 2022. What is the private sector response doing in terms of sustainability now of the response in the workplace?
Thank you very much, Spe, and thank you very much for the viewers for staying with us till this time. I think as the private sector, we just want to reaffirm that we are going to continue coordinating these activities, and as we unroll new packages, we urge members to make sure they take advantage of these activities and urge members that part of their workplace wellness minimum package is that at least there must be an hour every month where we talk issues around HIV and other health issues. Because now we've seen from this session, HIV alone is touching on all the other issues. You wanted me to talk on retirement. I won't even start because the reason why people are dying within the first 2 years of their retirement is because of the life they've lived. Some are saying maybe as businesses we must start talking retirement the day person is engaged. But if already a person comes to us at 24 and already has 4 children from university, you see there's already a problem. It means somebody must start even earlier. So that this thing becomes a continuum, and we can then say we have a possible future for our children if we are able to have this process starting from childhood up to workplaces. And like as I end again, we are committing to be there for businesses, but we want to say it's no longer a nice to have. The money that you need to invest on a wellness program cannot be compared to the money you lose for absenteeism and presenteeism. So we urge all businesses to make sure they have these programs. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Magetobile. I will give this opportunity to you, Mr. Nlangamandla, to just, make, reaffirming statements, the role of men in ending HIV, GBV, and, other issues.
Oh, thank you so much, Spe, and thank you so much, viewers, for being with us. I think it's so much important, Spe, to highlight that men, we've got a role to play in ensuring that we have a safe Eswatini and as well as a healthy Eswatini. And also we call upon even the structures like your religious sector as well as the traditional structures, because it has proven that they are key element or key component in the socialization of Emaswati into the behavior that we have as Emaswati. And also maybe it is to call upon men to say, if you can just imagine yourself that as a man, a Swati man, it happens that tomorrow, as a Friday, you tend to be a woman. Will you be happy to be in a relationship with the kind of man that you are currently to your partner? If ever you cannot be happy to be in a relationship with someone who is in love with 20 women, if ever you cannot be happy to be in a relationship with a man that is not allowing my partner to initiate safer sex. If ever you cannot be happy, please change, because even your partner is not happy. And the same, with the same breath, if you, maybe I would call upon women to say, let's take for instance, tomorrow you are changing to be a man, and then it happens to be a partner of the kind of women that you are to your partner. Will you be happy to be in a relationship with that kind of a woman that you are to your partner? If not, then change, because it means he is also not happy. In so doing, as a Maswati, we'll be having a better society that is considerate of how the other person will feel based on my actions. Thank you.
I love flip the scales and see if you're going to actually take that kind of behavior. Mr. Mavuso, I know that you had already summed up, but I'll just give you a moment to say your goodbyes.
Let us focus on adolescent girls and young women. Let us focus on key populations. They include female sex workers, they include men who have sex with men, they include prisoners. They have the highest prevalence of HIV. And now, some men who have sex with men also have sex with women. And now they become an important epidemiological bridge to the general population. So if we are going to reach epidemic control, let us carefully consider these subpopulations. It says equalize, Eswatini ending AIDS for all. And that specifically speaks to these dynamics I'm just highlighting. So what is the way forward? Let us emphasize the issue of combination HIV prevention. There is a variety. Let us make sure that we choose carefully. Actually, we want you to condomize, to, if you are a man, circumcise, also take PrEP, to just make sure that you have maximum protection. Our programs, of course, we always want and try as nature to ensure that they do a human-centered design, a human-centered approach to ensure that our programs are actually tailored to the specific needs of our population. So above that, thank you very much to our viewers. We are so excited, and nature is committed to the fight against HIV and AIDS. So we are still saying equalize. Eswatini ending AIDS for all. Thank you.
I like that photo finish. Eswatini ending AIDS for all. That is our theme for the year as we commemorate World AIDS Day today and in days to come. I know the general feeling is that because we are on World AIDS Day today, then other days don't matter. But it is only because December is a short month, which is why we begin our campaigns and commemorations earlier in November. But let us encourage you to continue the conversations, to continue the commemorations, to continue to care for people living with HIV. Have compassion in the manner you treat them, in the way that you speak to them, in the way that you speak about them. Let not you be the one to disclose somebody else's status. It is not acceptable. But otherwise, thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, to all our viewers, our virtual viewers who are watching us from within and beyond our borders, because we know the power, of social media and virtual platforms. We thank you so much for being with us on the Standard Bank Blue Table Talk on World AIDS Day, talking everything you need to know. I hope you have been empowered. I hope you have been, re-energized to actually take the conversation forward in the circle that you're in. Otherwise, from myself, Sipesihle Nkwanyana, and the rest of the crew, we have a whole crew here. Thank you so much for staying with us, and we hope you're going to continue the conversations where you are otherwise. Thank you, and
Bye.
happy World AIDS Day.